Democrats are calling for the full release of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Democratic strategist Julie Georginski joins me now from New York on the party's next steps. Julie, great to have you with us. I mean, this is a really fascinating time because I think a lot of people have been asking, where the Democrats stand, what power they yield, how do they fight back? And this is really an interesting time with President Trump's name being mentioned in the Jeffrey Epstein files. Could you break down for us how the Democrats are perceiving this from a strategic perspective?
Well, strategically and morally, it's kind of equivalent right now for a change in politics, which is that if you want to get to the bottom of what happened, if you want to find out whom these girls, who are now women, were trafficked to, we need to see all the files. And by all the files, it means not just what Todd Blanche wants us to see, not just what Pam Bondi wants us to see, not just what the president wants us to see, which is apparently nothing, since they said they're shutting down all discussion of this going forward, but all of it. It's exactly what the president promised. It's exactly what Pam Bondi promised. It's what Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, and Dan Bongino, his deputy, promised. Donald Trump Jr. promised it, and so on. And so when you have consistent promises being made to the American people in advance of this election about what was going to be shown to them if Donald Trump got in, and suddenly now the president is saying there's nothing to see here, that smells a little bit. And I think that is not something that just the Democrats believe, it's what everybody believes.
Yeah, and it's a very big U-turn. And as you say, it was one of those hot button issues, the Trump administration shifting very dramatically. I think what people are asking is, why? Why don't you release it so we can see? Do the Democrats see this as an opportunity to assert, sort of their agenda in the entire political landscape?
There's the politics of this, but there's also, as I said before, the morality of this. And I have a column in Time magazine today actually talking about this. Nobody's talking about the cost of this to the young women who were trafficked. Nobody's talking about what those girls, now women, went through. And nobody's creating a safe space for them to feel like they can come forward and not be threatened and not be maligned for telling the truth. Certainly, they know who they were trafficked to, and certainly they understand that some of these were very high-profile men who even then were very high-profile ostensibly, and who they can probably name if they felt comfortable doing that. But when this has become so politicized that these women feel like they are afraid not just for their safety, but potentially even for their lives, we've got to ask ourselves as a society what that means for other survivors who want to come forward. And look, I understand that there's the politics of this, and both sides are smelling blood in the water now, and understandably, especially on the Democratic side, this is a big political thing that the president has clearly not known and figured out how to respond to. But there's also the larger aspect of this that I hope both parties really pay strong attention to, which is that this is not just about Jeffrey Epstein. This is also about survivors who are not political at all, who deserve to have the space and the freedom and the safety to be able to tell the stories of what happened to them if they so choose, and not feel like they're political footballs or not feel like they have to worry about their own safety in order to do that.
And to your point, a big focus should still remain on the victims. But taking a step back here, and because President Trump has been referred to as the Teflon president in the past, I think that his party, everyone wants to see this issue go away. I'm kind of curious from a legal perspective, from a political perspective, what kind of options do the Democrats and even people from within the Republican Party have to fight this? Because I think that both people from both sides of the aisle are curious to know and make these files public.
Well, first of all, there's the court of law, and then there's the court of public opinion. And the court of public opinion is really where Democrats and also Republicans, who I think truly want to see justice done for these victims, that's where they really have the freedom to operate in ways that maybe they can't in a court of law. Look, you have had Republicans for a decade, from the president on down, talking about how we need to expose everything that Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and their unnamed co-conspirators have done to these girls. And the truth of the matter is that all of a sudden now that Donald Trump has decided he wants to shut this down for reasons that we can only guess at, suddenly a big chunk of the Republican Party wants to move on and say that there's nothing to see here, and are trying to rehabilitate Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, it's just unbelievable to me that the president's personal lawyer, the man who served as the president's criminal defense lawyer, who now is the #2 of the Justice Department, is spending 2 days meeting with a woman who, until just a few weeks ago, was universally acknowledged as the right-hand woman to a pedophile, a woman who herself has been convicted of trafficking young girls for sex. And ultimately, when you have something like that happen, and all of a sudden you have the president saying, even earlier, oh, well, I wish her only the best, and then suddenly the entire Republican Party, for all intents and purposes, falling in behind him. Well, if you have been a supporter of Donald Trump, and you have been told for a decade that she and everybody else, regardless of who those everybody else may be, would be held to account when Donald Trump came back into power, and suddenly in the first 6 months you've had this kind of whiplash, what does that tell you about anything that this president has said to you before about any subject, never mind something as serious as trafficking young girls to middle-aged and older adult men?
Julie Rodzinski, great to have you with us. Thank you so
Thank you
much
so
for
much.
those insights. Right.